Hi guys, welcome to this video where I'm going to show you how to download SyntX and use it to create an application from scratch. I'm Prithvi, the co-founder who's building all of this, so let's begin. So here you can go to our website at syntax.dev and click on installing. You can get many options, so you can choose whatever IDE you use. So for example, I use Visual Studio Code. So I will click on here and this pops right into Visual Studio Code and shows me syntax over here. Now, you can also always go ahead and search it over here as well on the extension marketplace. So you have to type in syntax and boom, you'll find it here as well. And then again, you can also find it in the leading IDEs right now. So we are available on Cursor, Windsurf, and Tray as well. So again, if I go back here and I can see I have to click on install, but obviously it takes about a minute to install and then boom, it shows up right here. Now it's pretty simple from here on. You click on get started, it takes you to a sign up page. All you have to do is sign up. Now I use Google sign up a lot, so it's pretty convenient for me. So I'm going to use that for this purpose of this demo. Cool. So here it gives you the initial UI and it also gives you a demo. And this demo is accessible from this question mark button. So you can always come back to it if you need any help. Alright, so the UI is pretty simple to be honest. You can choose your models from here. You can choose an agent mode from here. Now, agent mode basically does some very specific tasks. So, code will code, planet will plan, chat will chat, debug will debug, and all. And you can create new agents from here as well. You can just have to, give them a proper system prompt, and they will do your bidding. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to explain you how to use syntax to create an application from ground up, and that's what we are going to do. So for reference, I want to take a look at this very nice application by Google called Notebook LM. Now, this application, I don't know how many of you guys have used it, but it's pretty sleek. So essentially what it does is that you can upload all of your PDFs to this website and it basically creates this agent that knows your data inside out, and then there is this studio option from wherein you can create an entire podcast basis your given knowledge base. Now, for me, when I was in college, this thing was a game changer because I used it a lot because I remember a lot of my friends that were creating podcasts before the exam and then on the way to the exam center they were listening to the podcast in the name of studying. So it's pretty interesting, and what I want to do with this series of videos is to basically try to replicate this entire application from the ground up via small steps using syntax. Yeah. So obviously creating this entire application in one go is going to be a difficult task. So as a start, obviously, I'm going to be starting off with something pretty small, but something that is on the lines of creating a knowledge base and then using LLM inferencing over the top of it. So what I'm going to do is instead of creating a React app at the start, I'm going to be using Streamlit. Now, bear with me. Streamlit is basically this insanely powerful small Python package that allows you to create ready-made, UI using Python itself, right? And the best part is that it will take only about 100 lines of code to create a small chatbot application and wherein I'm using AI behind it as well. So, so we are going to be using Streamlit in the initial runs of these videos, but later on we'll switch to React to create a fully fledged application like this. And as for the model, so I'm going to be using Gemini 2.5 Flash. So for those who are new to, choosing models, the reason why I'm choosing a model like Gemini 2.5 Flash for this kind of task is simply because of this little token limit, which is not little, which is a lot. And it's a lot. It's 1 million, right? So the good thing about Gemini is that, these models, they are cheap and they have a high token limit. Now, when you're dealing with a large knowledge base of, so many PDF files, you need to see numbers looking like this: 3,000 files per prompt, 1,000 pages per file, and these high prompt limits are not available on a lot of mainstream models. Gemini is this model lineup that has been displaying a really high. Uh, it's so the parameter that we use, it's called needle in a haystack. So the idea is that if I'm giving it a very large knowledge base, how well it is able to figure out if the data point in the middle of that knowledge base is there or not, and if the LLM is able to inference correctly with that. So so we are going to be using Streamlit and Gemini 2.5 Flash to create this simple chatbot application that basically wherein you can import PDF files and then the AI can use that as a knowledge base to create a Q&A bot by it. Now that's a very basic application. Trust me, I'm going to be going much deep in the next videos. So now coming back to VS Code, I'm open SyntX here now. You know, now the first task is to structure a prompt, right? So watch closely what I'm going to do. So now instead of directly going into code, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Planner. Now the reason is that I first need to plan out what I'm going to build, what all requirements there has to be, and then most importantly, how the code is supposed to be structured, right? And the thing with Google is that they routinely update their uh, Python packages. So what I'm going to use Perplexity here to basically allow my LLM to inference the internet while it searches for information. So, my prompt is going to be like, hey, I am going to create a Streamlit application where I need to use Gemini 2.5 Flash. Now, you can be very specific with your prompt. So, as specific you are with your prompt, the better the output quality will be. But if you are not specific with your prompt, the LLM still can help you through a long way with that. But then again, I'm assuming you're an engineer. You should be able to do this. Anyways, so I need to use Gemini 2.5 Flash where so where the user can upload oh my bad the user can upload PDF files to it and the model basically uses them as a knowledge base to give the users answers. Basically a Q&A bot. Now I know my prompts are not the best, but they are something. Anyways, so now it gives me a whole plan to follow. This let's read what's saying. So it's correct from here. Streamlit, you need Streamlit for doing Streamlit stuff. Obviously, you need Google Generative AI to basically use the Gemini models. You need to make an API key. Now I'll teach you how to make an API key as well, since that is pretty important for you because Google lets you use their top tier models with a free API key, so they don't charge you anything, which is pretty cool, honestly. So Now it's asking me to use PyPDF2, which is honestly fine. I mean, PyPDF2 is basically there to render those PDFs into text that can be sent to the LLM model. So that's good. And then it created a proper plan for me. Nice. Environment setup, install Streamlit, set up API key. Yeah, looks looks good. Looks good. Nice. Now it also gave me some questions, so now I have to answer them. Now the thing is that from here on out, I know for a fact that what I wanted the perplexity model was to basically search up the correct requirements. But now since I know that is out of the question, that is already done, I can go back to a bigger model that does better work. So what I'm going to do is, so okay, again, so you basically get all of these three models by default. So obviously these are a lot less. You can also add models. So you got to click here and then it takes you to the provider, and then from here you can choose whatever model you want to show up there. Now I would recommend that you select only a few so that the drop down doesn't clog up for you. Now I would say I would go with Gemini 2.5 Pro thinking, and honestly, I'm a big fan of Gemini 2.5 Pro. I'll use that only. So I click here, and then all I have to do is I have to answer the questions that the AI asked me to. So it's what I prefer a modular. Um, so I will answer. So I would prefer a modular file structure, and the second is it should be a chat interface and users upload their PDF files beforehand, and the PDF file should be temporarily stored, and system message should be set hard coded into the code, and API key should be handled via an environment variable. Now I'll explain what I just did. Right. So again, modular structures are always good, since we are going to be creating a series wherein, you're going to be shifting away from Python, going totally into JavaScript territory, right? You should have a modular structure, and it should be a chat interface where people can upload files, and PDF should be stored temporarily because storing them permanently is basically a memory disaster. And the system message should be custom integrated in the code itself. The user should not be able to access it because the user doesn't know how the system is supposed to work. And as for the API key handling, and any newcomer into the developer space, never ever put your API keys hard coded in the code. Please. I see a lot of people doing that, and they push their code to GitHub, and then it's a disaster. You're going to be getting a $2,000 bill at 3 a.m. randomly on a Friday. So this looks good. So I think I would send this back to the LLM and see what it's going to say about that. So now it's thinking, so you can also see what it's actually thinking about. Now Gemini is notorious for thinking a lot, so it took only 8 seconds, so we were on the good side. So it gave me a plan. So they have the app.py, which is the main Streamlit application. So essentially with Streamlit, you have to basically run command streamlit run app.py. And then you have the requirements, you have the env, and then there is this permanent temporary storage for uploads, which is nice. You have a utility file. Init is there in every folder. So basically what init is, for those who are new to Python, init basically is configuring your folder such that the files in that folder can be used in other Python files that are not inside that folder. Otherwise you will get an error while importing them. So init is mandatory if you are creating a utility folder, any folder which has to be imported in any other folders, Python files. And so the requirements are correct. Python.env is basically a package that is used to access the env files. And so, so we have PDF processor. So it will process the PDF files. The Gemini client is basically made to use the Gemini 2.5 Flash code. And then you have the app.py, that is actually the Streamlit application. And that's pretty nice. So now here it asks me, if the plan meets my expectation. So, what it will do is it will write that onto a markdown file, and then you'll notice it's written can switch to code mode. Now, right now we're in planner mode. In planner mode, it doesn't have permissions to write to files, but in code mode, it can do that. So I would simply say, yes, let's begin the coding process. And now thing is that it will ask me for permissions later on for reading file, writing file, changing modes. I can do that, and what I can also do is simply give these permissions to the AI on its own. you know Now either you can do this, or if you don't trust the AI that much, you can not give it all the permissions maybe. But yeah, let's see what it does. Oh, it started making the implementation. That's nice. See, it asked me for saving, but since I had done auto approve, it didn't ask me. It simply went through. And now the thing is, it has to create the utility and the upload folders. Now, I could also just give it the execute commands or to approve, and then, that is not going to ask me for execute terminal command. But although I do recommend not do that. So, yeah. See, now this is where the API key is supposed to be stored. Now, I'm going to be creating a cut in the upcoming scene, because I know a lot of you guys over here will try to read my env file, but I'm not going to let that happen. But yeah, so it's going to take some time to create these files, so let's catch when it's done. Sorry guys, and I'm back. So apparently it didn't take a lot of time, and off screen, I put the Gemini API key. I'm not going to show that, please. Anyways, so what I also did was that I created a virtual environment and basically ran the pip command to install all of these packages. It's recommended that you always create a virtual environment. Since I am mostly a Python developer, I work with a lot of different codes, and that has different requirements throughout different repositories. So it's always beneficial to create a Conda environment or a pip virtual environment for every one of your projects. So that's what we did here. We created that, we did the pip install, and now since everything is pretty much set up, the API key is there, All I have to do is I have to click on the run command and it takes you over here. So now let's test this out. So when I click on browse files and I'll just put this for test. Um, what is this PDF about? I think we should add a loading bar over here. Oh, nice. Form DS160. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. What are the key points for filling up the form? To basically just do a back and forth conversation. But it took me hardly 5 minutes to create something like this. So I'm hoping that the end goal that we had of creating the notebook LM can be completed in the upcoming, maybe, I don't know, 10 videos. Chat, should we keep it 10 videos or 5 videos? You tell in the comments down below. So this works. I think this is a pretty good example. Now, I'll also show you on how to create a Gemini API key for free. Since this is a paid one that I have been using, I'll show you guys how to create a free one as well. So you have to go to Google AI Studio, and in Google AI Studio, you have to basically come over here. So click on Get API Key, and then you basically have to click here on Create API Key. Now it will basically ask you to go to GCP, create a GCP account. That doesn't take you any money, right? It takes 5 minutes. It's just going to swipe one rupee off your credit card or debit card, whatever you use, or dollar if you're in the US. It takes 1 rupee in India, but then that's also refunded back to your account the very next day, so that's fine. And then you basically have to just click on a project, create an API key, and that's it. Obviously, I'm not going to show you the API key. How did you think? Who am I? So, yeah, yeah. So, I think that this was a good start to an upcoming series of videos, and there is a lot of work that has to be done in recreating Notebook LM, and there are a plethora of features that I haven't talked about syntax till now. Like, there is this whole autopilot thing here that I don't have to switch between these models. If you're not very tech savvy, you can click on this autopilot, and then it will handle the model switching for you automatically. And you can use these modes, you can create more modes over here. There is this whole vertical agent section that's going to be filled with more agents in this upcoming week. We have an MCP marketplace that's yet to be tapped in. There is this whole autocomplete feature that I haven't talked about till now. So yeah, and this is my first video, so if you have any suggestions, please link them down in the comments, and like and subscribe. Please download SyntX, refer it to your friends. Right now we are having a free trial for $3 wherein we put $3 in your account. So I'll explain that as well. So if you go to SyntX, a website, and you sign in with your account, you will basically be led on to a profile page wherein you can see how many credits do you have. Now credits basically translate into real world money, and that's basically stored in this wallet wherein it's going to be cut as you use your models, which you can also see over here, right? And then you can always add credits. So if you run out of credits, for folks living in India, you can use UPI. And if you want to do a big purchase, you can always add credits over here, and that will take you to a Razorpay billing purchase website. Yeah, but yeah, so the thing is that there is a lot of things to be wrapped in. So yeah, I think that it's a good note on which we can end this video and see you guys next week. Ciao. And yeah, I think it's a good note to end this video. So see you guys next week. Ciao.